Have you ever been mid-sentence speaking English, and suddenly, bam, you trip over a phrase you know you already understand? It is incredibly frustrating, right? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're not just staring at dry grammar rules. We're actually hacking conversational English. We're going to break down the exact anatomy of an English error and completely decode why our brains make these very specific slips, even when we literally know better.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll hit the time traps. Then, master the little words. Look at words that go together, move on to asking the right questions, and wrap up with practice without the homework. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The time traps. Past simple and present perfect.
You know, getting tangled up in past tenses is actually the #1 most frequent slip-up in free conversation. When you're just chatting, telling a story using the past simple, it's remarkably easy to fall right into this trap. Take a look at the anatomy of this really common slip. Instead of the correct form, how long did it take, the brain sort of panics and pushes out how long did it took. You already have the helper word did, but in the heat of the moment, the brain accidentally slaps another past tense onto the main verb.
So, why does this happen? Well, it all comes down to what linguists call L1 interference. This is basically when a learner unconsciously applies the grammatical rules of their native language, their L1, to a second language, which causes these systematic errors. For example, if your native language, let's say Russian, has absolutely no auxiliary helper word for did in the past tense, your brain either drops it entirely out of habit or it overcompensates and accidentally doubles the past tense on the main verb. You are basically running English hardware on non-English software.
Okay, moving on, the second major time trap is the present perfect tense. Now, looking at this timeline, the present perfect tracks your life experience starting from a specific point way back in the past, continuing for a duration right up to this current moment. It acts like a bridge between the past and the present.
But here's where that tricky L1 interference strikes again. Because some native languages don't even have a present perfect tense, learners just automatically map their native phrase directly into English. So when you're talking about a life experience, you might make the common slip of saying, I was in Scotland, instead of the accurate, I have been to Scotland. You see, you use was in for a finished, completely enclosed moment in time, but have been to is for tracking your life's ongoing travel resume.
Time tenses are definitely a huge structural trap. But what happens when the absolute smallest words cause the biggest headaches? Let's see how this interference builds when we start dealing with the tiniest words in the whole English dictionary.
Section 2. Mastering the little words, articles and prepositions.
These little guys, articles and prepositions, they actually rank 3rd and 4th on the teacher's error frequency list. They create absolute chaos. Take a look at this concept here, the zero article transfer effect. Basically, if your native language lacks an article system entirely, meaning you have no native equivalent for a, an, or the, you are going to experience systematic zero article transfer. Your brain naturally just deletes them because it simply doesn't see a use for them. This means you have to consciously build this entirely new conversational muscle. It doesn't happen automatically. You literally have to actively train your brain to notice these invisible words.
And then, oh boy, we have prepositions. Small prepositions just do not translate directly. For instance, saying on the wedding is a direct calque, a word-for-word translation from other languages. To sound natural in English, you really just have to memorize them as fixed, unbreakable phrases. At the wedding, at a party, in the world, a glass of water, not a glass with water. Seriously, say them out loud right now. Saying the full phrase aloud helps it start to intuitively just sound right to your own ears.
Now, speaking of memorization, you might be wondering, is there some deep, hidden grammatical logic to why we choose certain action verbs over others? Like, why in the world do we make a mistake but we take a photo?
Section 3. Words that go together, the chunking cheat code. This brings us to collocations. These are words that just naturally group together, quite honestly, often without any deep underlying logic. They just are what they are. And the pairings here brilliantly illustrate the challenge. You make a mistake and make an effort, but you take a photo and take a break. In a lot of languages, verbs like make and do are totally collapsed into just one single word. Because of this, learners have to chunk these English verb pairs visually in order to memorize them. You gotta lock them together in your mind as a single unit.
This exact L1 collapse leads directly to our #2 most frequent error. Learners often say take a mistake or make a photo. So the absolute crucial point here is just knowing that take a mistake is fundamentally wrong. Your best defense against this slip is visually chunking the correct pairs, like make a mistake and take a photo, so your brain retrieves them instantly as one unbreakable block.
Section 4. Asking the right questions. Do, does, is, and are. Question formation can be incredibly tricky, especially when you're speaking quickly on the fly, because it requires you to carefully sort out your helper words. And here is one of the clearest single-item mistakes you will hear in free conversation. A learner might ask, "What means this word?" instead of the correct form, "What does this word mean?" The learner frequently drops the helper word does completely, because, once again, their native language likely doesn't require a helper word just to ask a basic question.
So the big question is, where does that helper word go, and which one do you even use? Well, to avoid this trap, you need to spot the ordinary verb in the sentence. That tells you exactly where that helper word must sit.
Let's break down how to choose it. If you have an ordinary verb with he, she, or it, you use does, like where does she work? If you have an ordinary verb with I, you, we, or they, you use do. Do you travel? But, and here is the ultimate deciding factor, if there is no ordinary verb at all, or if it's an ing verb, you switch the helper over to is or are. Is it raining? If you can spot the verb, the helper falls right into place.
Section 5. Practice without the homework, the ultimate hack.
We've covered the top errors from the past simple all the way to collocations. So how do you actually fix all of this without burying your head in a dry textbook for hours on end? Well, the teacher's appendix from our source material gives us this beautiful quote, which is absolutely the ultimate hack. Noticing is the practice. Let me say that again. Noticing is the practice. You can toss out the heavy homework and simply start noticing the language in the media you already consume.
Here is how it works. It's a super simple, actionable 3-step process. Step 1. Pick one single grammar pattern from our explainer today. Just one. Step 2. Watch some English content, a TV show, a YouTube video, a movie, whatever you like. Step 3. Count how many times you hear that specific pattern in the first 5 minutes. Just consciously tally it up.
The contrast here is really the key. The traditional way is memorizing dry rule books, which, let's be honest, feels like a chore and rarely sticks in fast-paced conversation. But the ultimate hack is this conscious noticing of native patterns. By shifting to active noticing, you naturally and effortlessly rewire your brain to overcome that sneaky L1 interference we talked about earlier.
The English language can certainly feel like a beautifully messy puzzle, but with this explainer, you now hold the teacher's cheat sheet. You know exactly why your brain makes these slips, and you know how to hack them through simple, active noticing. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. Which specific pattern are you going to listen for first today?